Monarch Legacy of Monsters just wrapped up its first season, or I don't know if it's just a miniseries. I don't know what they plan on doing with this section of the monster universe, but it just wrapped up last week, so let's review. So Monarch Legacy of Monsters, it goes back and forth between two different time periods, in which the first time period is centers on Kate, who is separated from her father when G-Day happens, which took place during the events of Godzilla 2024, but this show jumps to 2025 in which she's trying to find her father. And then she comes across Kentaro, who is also her brother that she didn't know about, in which her father had a relationship with someone who is not her mother. And so now she has a brother she didn't even know about. And the two of them, they come together to find out what happened to their father, in which he is tied to Monarch, which is an organization that monitors all the monsters within this universe, like Godzilla, the Mutos. And they also get help from Kiersey Clemens' character, in which there's more to her character that they're being led on. And this show also takes place in the past, in which you have Bill Randa, who is John Goodman's character from Kong Skull Island, but it takes place earlier than that film, in which he is with two other people that helped him start and fund Monarch. You have Keiko, who is a scientist who investigates these monsters. Then you have Lee Shaw, who is a colonel who is played by Wyatt Russell in this time period, but in the future he is played by Kurt Russell, his own father. But like I said, this show takes place between those two time periods, in which those characters are connected, and how the events of the past affects the events of the present, but not in ways that you think. It mostly takes place in the family aspect of Bill Randa and his family. Now, I am a fan of the Monsterverse, which consists of Godzilla 2024, Kong Skull Island, Godzilla King of Monsters, and Godzilla vs. Kong, and we got Godzilla X Kong, the new Empire, coming out this year. Now, granted, I don't like every aspect about these movies, but I do get a kick out of watching them. And when I heard about this show, I was like, that is interesting. And everybody complained, talking about it's too much focus on the human characters and not enough monster action, in which by episode 2, 3, whatever, either way, I realized early on, like, that's not what this show is about. This show more so focuses on the human characters, and more specifically, more so about Monarch and how it is as an organization, and how that affects everything within this universe and the monsters. And it focuses on one family, which is the Randa, which started with Bill Randa, and he adopted his son, and he adopted Keiko's son, in which he fathered two other children. But this, again, is about the generational trauma that plagued this family and how that ties into Monarch. And I just really dug that theme for this show. And it's also about how these people had pure intentions for Monarch, but it got overtaken by the government, and it got turned into something that doesn't even really resemble what Monarch was supposed to be back in the day. Now, I don't know what the budget for this show is. They must have had a really nice budget, because this show, for an Apple Plus show, or show in general, this show looks great as hell. Like, I feel like I was actually watching a movie. And I also like all the timeline jumping and switching up on the show, because right now on the timeline, I think Godzilla versus King Kong, I think that took place in like 2021. Well, it came out in 2021, but I think it took place sometime after Godzilla King of Monsters. But this show takes place in 2015, which kind of feels really nostalgic, because I remember 2015, which relatively didn't happen not too long ago, but they do little things here and there that kind of remind me of 2015. I'm like, oh, I remember this. Like, a particular song comes on, and I'm like, I remember when that song was popped. But this show is supposed to take place after the events of Godzilla 2014, which I felt is a great placement. But this show also kind of fills in some gaps, like with Kong Skull Island, but it also fills in the gaps with Godzilla's history within this universe. And it gives us some much needed backstory to Monarch. Now, the actress that plays Kate, I know her name is Anna, but I'm not going to try to pronounce her last name. But this actress, I remember she had a role in F9, in which she's the adopted daughter of Han in that film. But it's good to see her, kind of see her outside of that and see, like, oh, she actually is a good actress. Not saying she was bad in F9, but just like, you see her here, like, I'm actually curious to see what she does next. But I like how Kate and Kentaro, both of them have a chip on their shoulders because of the trauma their father had bestowed upon them, and how it affects them as human beings and adults. Yuri Miyamoto, who plays Keiko, I like her dynamic with Bill Randa and Lee Shaw. Well, I just like all the past stuff, because again, it's much needed backstory for Monarch, and it also shows how everything that happened between the three of them affected everybody in the future. And again, real slick Monarch for casting Wyatt and Kurt Russell to play basically the same character, because they're both father and son in real life. Real slick. But both of them did excellently, and both of them, they both did a good job at basically being the same character. Overall, I really dug this method of expanding the MonsterVerse. And again, I don't know if this was just supposed to be a one season thing, but if there is a season 2, I can't wait to see what happens next, especially after that ending. It might tie into Godzilla X Kong, but I do want to see more of these characters. And I do appreciate that this show didn't just give us more dumb fun monster action. I also appreciate that this film manages to focus on the human characters by making it a compelling family drama. I'm going to give Monarch Legacy of Monsters the hands up emoji because it is a masterpiece.